To think like a pro, you must see the world with clarity. To speak like a pro, you must own your words with confidence. To influence like a pro, you must understand the hidden patterns of human behavior. This book will teach you not only how to master these skills, but how to weave them into every interaction, every conversation, every decision you make. With every chapter, you'll unlock a new level of thinking, speaking, and influencing. You'll move beyond theory and into practical mastery. Stay with me and subscribe now, because your transformation begins here. Chapter 1. The Power of Clear Thinking. Clear thinking is the foundation of everything. It is the compass that guides decisions, shapes actions, and defines success. When you think clearly, you don't just see the obvious. You see what others miss. You see patterns, possibilities, and opportunities others overlook. Most people move through life on autopilot. They react rather than respond. They make decisions based on emotion, fear, or habit. But clear thinking is different. It is intentional, it is disciplined, it is focused on the truth, not the noise. The first step to clear thinking is awareness. You must learn to recognize the distractions in your mind, the chatter, the biases, the assumptions. Clear thinking comes from silence. It comes from quieting the noise and getting to the root of things. When you practice silence, you begin to think without interference. You start making decisions based on logic, not impulse. You start seeing things without judgment, just observation. Clear thinkers don't rush. They take time to process information. They ask questions. They challenge their own assumptions. They reflect. They seek truth, not just answers. This is the difference between reacting and responding. Reacting is quick, emotional, and often regretful. Responding is measured, thoughtful, and purposeful. The key to clear thinking is slowing down enough to think deeply. This doesn't mean being slow to act. It means being thoughtful in your actions. It means being clear before you act. To think like a pro, you must first master the art of asking the right questions. Questions open the door to clarity. They invite insight. They challenge old ways of thinking and expand your mind. The more questions you ask, the more you understand. The more you understand, the clearer your thinking becomes. Clear thinking is not about knowing all the answers. It's about knowing how to find the answers. It's about knowing what to look for and where to look. A clear thinker doesn't get stuck in the details. They see the big picture and then zoom in on the most important pieces. Clear thinking is also about controlling your emotions. Emotions cloud judgment. They twist perceptions. They create blind spots. Social masters know that emotions are powerful, but they don't control them. They use emotions as data, not as drivers. When you can separate emotion from logic, you think clearly. The second step is to clear your mind. Mental clutter is the enemy of clear thinking. We all have too many thoughts, too many things pulling for our attention. The more cluttered your mind, the harder it is to think clearly. To think like a pro, you must clear that clutter. You need space to think. You need quiet. You need to take a step back, slow down, and create mental clarity. Meditation, journaling, deep breathing, these are powerful tools for clearing the mind. When you create space, you open up your mental capacity. You allow your mind to focus on what truly matters. Clear thinking requires intentionality. It doesn't happen by accident. It happens when you choose to slow down and focus on what's important. The more you focus on clarity, the more it becomes your default state. Clear thinking becomes a habit. Pro thinkers don't make decisions based on emotions. They base their decisions on logic, data, and deep reflection. They ask themselves, what is the truth here? What is the best course of action? And once they have clarity, they move with confidence. The third step is emotional intelligence. To think clearly, you must understand the emotional state you're in. Your emotions affect your perception of reality. They influence how you interpret information. Clear thinkers are aware of their emotions, but do not let them dictate their actions. They can separate their emotional reactions from their logical thinking. They stay grounded even when emotions are high. Being emotionally intelligent means recognizing your feelings, understanding where they come from, and choosing how to respond, rather than react. Clear thinking also comes from knowing when to seek advice. No one has all the answers. A clear thinker knows when to ask for help. They surround themselves with people who challenge them, people who offer different perspectives, and people who question their assumptions. Clear thinking is not about knowing everything. It's about knowing what you don't know and being willing to learn. The ability to think clearly is a skill you can sharpen over time. It's built through practice, patience, and emotional mastery. Clear thinkers don't let fear dictate their actions. They don't second-guess themselves. They trust in their ability to gather information, process it logically, and make decisions that are aligned with their purpose. One of the hallmarks of clear thinking is adaptability. Clear thinkers don't rigidly stick to a plan when new information arises. They remain flexible. They adjust their thinking based on new data. They are not afraid to change their mind when the facts change. Clear thinking allows you to take in information, understand it, and adjust your approach accordingly. It helps you find better solutions when problems arise. The more you practice clear thinking, the more naturally it will come. It will become your first reaction, your default. Clear thinking also means acting with integrity. When you think clearly, you know what is right and what is wrong. You don't compromise your values to fit in, to win, or to avoid discomfort. Social masters lead with integrity. They make decisions based on what is true, not what is easy. They think clearly enough to make the right choice, even when it's difficult. Clear thinking is not just for decision-making, it's for communication. It's for conflict resolution. It's for leadership. When you think clearly, you lead with vision. You speak with purpose. You resolve conflicts with empathy. You build trust with transparency. The power of clear thinking is that it gives you a sense of control. You stop feeling overwhelmed. You stop reacting to life's chaos. You stop being a passenger in your own journey. Clear thinking allows you to be the driver. You set the course. You make the decisions, and you steer your life in the direction you want it to go. At work, in relationships, in every part of your life, clear thinking gives you the mental strength to navigate challenges. It helps you stay grounded when emotions run high. It helps you stay focused when distractions arise. Clear thinking is the difference between reacting and responding. It is the difference between living by chance and living with intention. So the next time you face a challenge, take a step back. Clear your mind. Trust your ability to think through the situation with clarity. And when you do, you will make decisions that lead to success, confidence, and peace. Chapter 2. The Art of Speaking with Impact. Words are not just words. They are the tools that shape reality. The way you speak can elevate your influence, spark emotions, and change outcomes. To speak with impact is to understand the power of your voice, how you use tone, timing, and presence to communicate your message. It's not about what you say, but how you say it. Impactful speakers don't use words for decoration. They use them for connection. Great speakers are not defined by their vocabulary, but by the energy they carry with every sentence. Their words resonate, they feel authentic, and they leave a lasting impression. Speaking with impact begins with intention. Before you speak, you must know why you're speaking. Is it to inform? To inspire? To persuade? Every speech, every conversation requires a clear intention behind it. Without intention, your words float aimlessly. With intention, every word lands with purpose. The art of speaking with impact requires you to be aware of your audience. What do they need? What do they feel? What is the emotional state of the room? A great speaker enters a conversation with the audience in mind. They don't just speak to be heard. They speak to be understood. They speak to connect. People remember how you made them feel, not just what you said. This is why impact matters. When your words come from a place of authentic intention, they carry power. They connect with the listener's emotions. They inspire action. Speaking with impact also requires clarity. You can't influence people if your message is unclear, if your words are jumbled, if your tone is inconsistent, if your message is lost in confusion. Your impact fades away. Clear communication cuts through noise. It speaks directly to the heart. It avoids unnecessary complexity and focuses on what matters most. Simplicity is powerful. The clearer your message, the stronger its impact. One of the most powerful aspects of impactful speaking is timing. Great speakers understand rhythm. They know when to speak, when to pause, and when to listen. Timing allows your words to breathe. It lets your message sink in before moving on to the next point. A well-timed pause gives weight to your words. It allows the audience to reflect. It creates space for the message to resonate. Conversely, rushing through a speech makes your message feel less important. It creates anxiety, both for the speaker and the listener. Impactful speakers speak slowly, with purpose. They let their message marinate before moving forward. Every sentence is measured, every word carefully chosen. Impactful speaking is also about how you say something. Your tone can communicate warmth, authority, empathy, or urgency, without you even realizing it. People listen not only to the content of your message, but also to the emotional energy you convey. The right tone can make the difference between being heard and being ignored. When you speak with warmth, people listen with openness. When you speak with authority, people listen with respect. When you speak with empathy, people listen with trust. The right tone builds bridges, while the wrong tone creates barriers. Another key aspect of speaking with impact is body language. Your words may carry weight, but your body language reinforces that weight. A steady posture, a calm breath, an open stance. These signals communicate confidence. When you speak with impact, your body matches your message. You stand tall, you make eye contact, you move with intention. Great speakers don't just use words to connect. They use their entire presence. They embody the message they want to share. The energy you project becomes the energy others absorb. If you speak with doubt, people will doubt you. If you speak with clarity, people will believe in you. If you speak with passion, people will feel inspired. And yet, speaking with impact doesn't mean being loud. It means being heard without shouting. It means saying less, but making it count. You don't need to fill silence with noise. You don't need to dominate the conversation. You need to speak with authority, but also with humility, with purpose, but also with respect. Impactful speakers create room for others to speak. They don't just take the floor, they invite others to share the stage. Speaking with impact requires vulnerability. It's not about being perfect, it's about being real. People don't connect with flawless speeches. They connect with real emotions, real stories, real struggles. When you speak from a place of vulnerability, people listen with empathy. They feel your honesty, your openness. Vulnerability is not weakness. It is courage. When you speak with courage, your message resonates deeply. The art of speaking with impact is about the relationship between speaker and listener. It's about creating trust. It's about creating an emotional connection. And trust doesn't come from authority alone. It comes from empathy, authenticity, and understanding. Social masters understand this. They know that speaking with impact isn't about convincing others. It's about connecting with them. It's about understanding their fears, their dreams, their hopes, and speaking directly to their hearts. Impactful communication requires both power and presence. You must speak with authority, but you must also listen with humility. You must stand firm, but you must also remain open. The balance between power and humility creates impact that lasts. And lastly, the most powerful tool for speaking with impact is authenticity. People are drawn to those who are genuine, who speak from the heart, who don't try to impress, but to connect. Authenticity attracts people because it feels safe. It feels real. It feels human. When you speak with authenticity, your message is impossible to ignore. It carries weight because it comes from the truth of who you are. Impactful speaking is not about perfection. It's about presence. It's about intention. It's about creating emotional resonance. When you speak like a pro, you don't just share information. You inspire, you connect, and you influence. The power of your words is not in how loud you speak, but in how deeply you connect. When your message is clear, your energy is steady, and your words are genuine, you will speak with impact, and the world will listen. Chapter 3. The Influence of Persuasion. Persuasion is an art, not a technique. It's the subtle dance of influence, a skill that can turn the smallest of conversations into powerful, life-changing moments. Everyone persuades in one way or another. It's not about manipulation. It's about guiding others toward a decision that serves both them and you. The true power of persuasion lies in its ability to align your intentions with theirs. Great persuaders don't push. They pull. They draw people in with their presence, their words, and their emotional intelligence. They understand the human mind, not just the situation. They don't force a point. They create a space where the other person feels safe to make the choice they are already leaning toward. To persuade is to understand the deeper currents of human desire, fear, and motivation. When you tap into those emotions, you don't need to push. You simply create a path that leads to the desired outcome. The first step of persuasion is connection. You can't persuade someone you don't understand. You can't persuade someone who doesn't trust you. Connection is the bridge between where you are and where they need to go. People don't want to be sold. They want to be understood. Before you persuade, you must listen. Listen to their needs. Listen to their pain. Listen to their dreams. The more you understand someone's emotional state, the better equipped you are to guide them in the right direction. Persuasion starts with empathy. It starts with seeing things from their perspective, understanding their fears, and acknowledging their desires. When you listen deeply, you hear what isn't said. You sense what's hidden beneath the surface. This emotional intelligence creates trust that allows you to influence without pressure. The next step in persuasion is timing. When you speak, you must choose the right moment. Great persuaders don't rush. They wait for the right time to plant the seed. If you push too early, you create resistance. If you wait too long, you miss the opportunity. Timing is about being attuned to the other person's emotional state, waiting for the exact moment when they're ready to hear your message. Timing also means knowing when to pull back. Sometimes persuasion is not about pushing forward, but about allowing space. A moment of silence, a pause in the conversation, can create the perfect environment for someone to reflect on what you've said. The art of persuasion is knowing when to give, when to listen, and when to step back and let the other person feel their own decision-making process. Another key aspect of persuasion is clarity. If you want to persuade someone, your message must be clear. It must be simple. It must be direct. Clarity creates confidence. Confusion creates hesitation. People can't be persuaded if they don't understand what you're asking. So be clear about your message, your offer, and the outcome. But clarity isn't just about the words you use. It's also about the emotions you convey. People are drawn to those who communicate with certainty, who show confidence in their ideas. Uncertainty creates doubt. Confidence creates trust. When you speak with confidence, people listen. When you speak with doubt, people question. In the process of persuasion, there's also the principle of reciprocity. Humans are wired to return favors. When you give something, people naturally feel the need to give something back. This principle of give and take is a powerful tool in persuasion. But it's not about giving in order to get. It's about building a sense of goodwill. When you give from a place of authenticity, the other person feels more inclined to respond positively. Reciprocity works on a subconscious level. It creates a bond, an unspoken agreement. By creating value for someone, you've set the stage for them to feel comfortable supporting you in return. Another pillar of persuasion is social proof. Humans are social creatures. We look to others to guide our decisions. When we see others making a choice, we feel more confident in making the same choice. Social proof doesn't need to be loud or obvious. It's the subtle influence of seeing someone like you taking action. It's the power of hearing. Others have done it too. In Persuasion, social proof works because it creates a sense of safety. People are more likely to make a decision when they see it has been made by others before them. It's not about leading with force. It's about leading with shared experience. Stories are another powerful tool in persuasion. People don't remember facts. They remember stories. A well-told story can bypass the logical mind and speak directly to the heart. Stories connect. They help others see themselves in your message. They create emotional engagement, and they make your point more memorable. When you share a story, you invite others to imagine a better reality, one where they are part of the narrative. A good story in persuasion doesn't sell a product, it sells a vision. And as a great persuader, you must paint a vision that others want to be part of. This vision must align with their desires, their goals, their values. People don't want to be persuaded towards something they don't care about. They want to be guided towards something they already want, but may not have realized they could have. Persuasion is about showing them that possibility. It's about shining a light on the path they haven't yet seen. It's also about confidence in your own message. When you speak with absolute clarity and conviction, others will follow. When you waver, they will hesitate. Great persuaders understand the psychology of decision-making. People make decisions emotionally first and justify them with logic later. So your first job in persuasion is to create an emotional connection. Your second job is to support it with logic. This is why emotional appeal is crucial. When you reach someone's emotions, you reach their heart. When you reach their heart, you guide their actions. But even the most persuasive message is useless without respect. Respect is the foundation of all influence. You cannot manipulate someone into agreement. You cannot force a decision. True persuasion is an exchange. It's a conversation where both sides feel heard, understood, and valued. It's about creating a win-win situation, where the other person feels like they made the choice. This feeling of autonomy is key to persuasion. People don't like to feel pushed or manipulated, but they love to feel understood. They love to feel that their needs were taken into account. So when you persuade with authenticity and respect, you create a space where others can feel good about their choices, and that's when influence becomes natural. Mastering persuasion is not about being the loudest voice in the room. It's about being the clearest, the most consistent, and the most emotionally connected. When your words match your energy, your confidence matches your presence, and your values match your actions, persuasion becomes effortless. People don't follow force. They follow clarity. They follow honesty. They follow trust. And once you master these elements, you will speak, act, and influence like a true professional. Chapter 4. The Psychology of Influence in Leadership. Leadership is not about titles. It's about influence. Influence is the quiet power that guides decisions, shapes behaviors, and steers groups toward a shared goal. Great leaders do not command from above. They lead from within. They know that true leadership is not about being the loudest voice in the room, but the one that listens the most and speaks the most effectively. The psychology of influence in leadership is rooted in emotional connection. It's about understanding people, their needs, their desires, their fears. It's about knowing how to motivate, inspire, and align others toward a collective vision. True leaders build trust, not by telling people what to do, but by showing them why they should do it. They inspire action through conviction, not authority. Influence in leadership begins with self-awareness. A leader cannot guide others if they do not know their own strengths, weaknesses, values, and limitations. Self-awareness provides clarity, grounding, and purpose. When a leader is grounded in their own values, their decisions become consistent, their actions become predictable, and others are drawn to follow. Self-awareness also means emotional control. Great leaders do not react to stress or conflict with outbursts. They stay calm under pressure. They think before they act. They remain steady when the world around them is shaking. This emotional stability builds trust. People follow leaders they feel will remain calm in a storm. not those who get swept away by the winds. The next pillar of influence in leadership is empathy. Empathy is the ability to understand and share the feelings of others. It is the emotional intelligence that allows a leader to step into another person's shoes, to feel what they feel, to see the world from their perspective. Empathetic leaders understand the emotional currents within their teams. They know when to push and when to pull back. They know when to speak and when to listen. They understand that the motivation of their team comes from the inside, not the outside. Empathy fosters a culture of trust. It allows leaders to connect with their people on a human level, to create a space where everyone feels valued, heard, and respected. People don't follow leaders because of their titles. They follow because they feel understood. They follow because they trust that the leader has their best interests at heart. And empathy strengthens a leader's influence because it's genuine. When people know a leader genuinely cares about their well-being, they are more likely to follow their lead. The psychology of influence also relies on clarity. A leader with clarity of purpose will always attract followers. People want to be led in a direction. They want to know where they are going. They want to feel that the leader has a clear vision and a clear path forward. When a leader communicates with clarity, they remove doubt, confusion, and fear. They inspire confidence because they know where they are headed. They make the journey feel manageable, achievable. This clarity is contagious. When others see the leader's vision with crystal clear focus, they begin to see it too. They begin to believe it, and they start walking in the same direction, with purpose. Leadership is also about consistency. The most influential leaders are those who are consistent in their behavior, their communication, and their decisions. Consistency builds reliability. It creates an environment where others feel safe to follow, to act, and to commit. When a leader's words align with their actions, when their intentions align with their impact, they become an unwavering source of trust. People follow consistency because it builds belief. It reduces uncertainty and makes them feel secure in the leader's guidance. Influence also thrives on vulnerability. Leaders who show vulnerability create emotional connections that deepen their influence. Vulnerability is not weakness, it is strength. It is the strength to admit mistakes, the strength to ask for help, the strength to be authentic, even when it feels uncomfortable. Leaders who are vulnerable invite others to be vulnerable too. They create an environment where openness is valued, where feedback flows freely, where innovation and collaboration thrive. In a vulnerable space, people feel safe to share their ideas, their challenges, and their visions. And when people feel heard and accepted, they are more likely to commit to the leader's direction. Great leaders use their vulnerability to build trust. They create human connection, and from that connection, they draw influence. Another cornerstone of influence in leadership is communication. Effective communication is the bridge that connects a leader's vision to their team's actions. It's how they share their ideas, align their team, and inspire others to take action. But great communication doesn't just happen through words. It happens through listening, through understanding, through emotional resonance. A leader who listens with intention, speaks with clarity, guides with empathy, and leads with authority. The most influential leaders are those who make others feel heard. They create an environment where everyone's voice matters, where people are encouraged to share ideas and opinions. And in return, they create a culture of innovation, respect, and loyalty. Influence also relies on the ability to inspire action. Leaders who inspire create momentum. They turn ideas into action, dreams into reality. But inspiration is not about making grand speeches. It's about showing people what they are capable of. It's about lighting a fire in their hearts and giving them the tools to take action. Leaders who inspire give their followers a sense of purpose. They show them the value of their work, the impact of their contributions. They create a shared vision that becomes a collective mission. When people are inspired, they go beyond the call of duty. They move beyond expectations. They create results that exceed what anyone thought was possible. In the psychology of influence, leadership is not about domination, but about empowerment. A true leader empowers their team to step into their own greatness. They give them the space to lead themselves, while gently guiding them toward the collective goal. The power of leadership lies in creating more leaders, not more followers. Leadership influence is not about being the smartest or the loudest. It's about being the most attuned, the most empathetic, the most inspiring. The more you empower others, the more influence you gain. The more you listen, the stronger your connection becomes, and the more you lead with clarity, the more people will follow your direction with trust and confidence. In conclusion, the psychology of influence in leadership is the art of connecting people to a vision, to each other, and to their own potential. It's the ability to guide others with empathy, clarity, and emotional intelligence. Leaders who master this art do not just lead teams, they inspire movements, create change, and leave a legacy that lasts. The greatest leaders are those who understand the human element of leadership. They are not concerned with power for the sake of power. They are concerned with power for the sake of service, for the sake of growth, for the sake of the people they lead. When you master the psychology of influence, you don't need to command respect. It comes naturally. You don't need to force change. It happens organically. And you don't need to push people to follow you. They will follow because they believe in you, in your vision, and in themselves. This is the true power of leadership, the power of influence. Chapter 5. Cultivating Leadership Charisma. Charisma is not something you're born with. It's something you cultivate. It's the energy you bring into a room, the presence you carry, and the emotional connection you create with those around you. Leadership charisma is the ability to inspire, to influence, to make people feel like they are part of something bigger than themselves. But charisma isn't about being the loudest, the flashiest, or the most charming. It's about emotional authenticity, energy alignment, and the subtle power to draw others in. When you think of a charismatic leader, you don't think about the perfect words they spoke, the perfect clothes they wore, or the perfect mannerisms they displayed. You remember how they made you feel. Charisma is about energy. It's the feeling you get when someone enters a room and you know instantly there's something magnetic about them. It's the way their presence fills the space, not with force, but with an undeniable pull. At the core of charismatic leadership is emotional presence. It's about being fully engaged in the moment, undistracted, attentive, and present to the needs of the group. When a leader is emotionally present, they align their energy with that of the people they lead. They listen not only with their ears, but with their hearts. They respond with empathy, with clarity, and with deep understanding. This kind of emotional connection forms the foundation of charisma. People are drawn to leaders who make them feel seen and heard. Charismatic leaders make others feel valued, even when they're quiet, even when they're not speaking directly to them. Presence is the first step in cultivating charisma. When you enter a room with confidence, poise, and emotional steadiness, you begin to shift the energy in the space. But charisma is not about controlling others' emotions. It's about creating space for others to express their own. You don't lead by dominating the room. You lead by making others feel comfortable enough to express their true selves. People with charisma have a unique ability to listen, not just with their ears, but with their full attention. Their body language speaks volumes. Their eyes make eye contact. Their posture is open. Their energy invites others to be themselves. Charismatic leaders don't judge people. They accept others for who they are. And this acceptance creates trust, and trust breeds influence. But leadership charisma is also about the energy you project. It's the confidence you carry in your body, in your voice, in your actions. When you speak with clarity and passion, when you hold yourself with integrity and confidence, people can't help but pay attention. They feel inspired, energized, and ready to act. This energy is magnetic, it's infectious. It has a ripple effect that spreads throughout the group, infecting everyone with the same enthusiasm and passion. But charisma isn't just about speaking with authority. It's also about knowing when to be silent. Sometimes the most charismatic thing you can do is simply listen. When you listen with full presence, when you truly hear what someone is saying, without interrupting, without judgment, you create a deep emotional bond. You make others feel valued. You make them feel like their words matter. And when people feel that their words matter, they trust you. They are more likely to follow you. The most charismatic leaders know how to balance speaking and listening. They know when to share their thoughts and when to remain silent and absorb the energy of the room. But the energy you project isn't just about listening or speaking. It's also about how you make others feel emotionally. Charismatic leaders have an almost magical ability to make others feel inspired, capable, and empowered. They do this by recognizing potential in others, even when they don't see it in themselves. When a leader believes in someone else's potential, it is like a spark that lights a fire in others. It's not the words they use that matter the most. It's the energy of belief and encouragement they share. When you speak with belief in others, you make them believe in themselves. When you listen with empathy and understanding, you make others feel supported and safe. Charisma is rooted in emotional intelligence, the ability to recognize, understand, and manage your own emotions and the emotions of others. Charismatic leaders are emotionally intelligent. They are aware of their own emotional state, and they can regulate it in any situation. They also have a keen awareness of the emotions of others. They know when someone is feeling discouraged, when someone is feeling overwhelmed, when someone is feeling inspired. They adjust their energy and their actions accordingly, knowing when to provide support, when to encourage, and when to challenge. The key to charisma is this: you must be able to understand and relate to the emotions of others without losing touch with your own. Charisma is also about consistency. People follow those who are consistent in their behavior, in their energy, and in their communication. If your energy is unpredictable, if your actions are inconsistent, if your words don't match your behavior, you lose your influence. Charismatic leaders are stable. They provide emotional grounding in times of uncertainty. They act with integrity, and they keep their word. People trust consistency, but consistency doesn't mean rigidity. Charismatic leaders are flexible in their approach, but they are always grounded in their values. They know when to bend and when to stand firm. Another element of leadership charisma is emotional contagion. Charisma is contagious. When you bring positive, uplifting energy into a room, others will catch it. Your mood affects the group's mood. Your energy infects their energy. When you exude confidence, passion, and positivity, others naturally gravitate toward that energy. This is why charismatic leaders seem to attract followers without effort. They bring energy to the room, and others are drawn to it. People follow leaders who make them feel something powerful, something inspiring, something that makes them believe in themselves and the mission. The true power of leadership charisma is in its ability to empower others. Charismatic leaders inspire others to rise to their full potential. They make people feel valued, capable, and ready to act. But charisma doesn't just influence others. It influences you, the leader. When you lead with charisma, you inspire yourself. You feel a deeper sense of purpose. You rise to challenges with a clear vision. You become a role model, not by perfection, but by authenticity. Social energy, emotional intelligence, belief in others, and consistency are the pillars of leadership charisma. They form the foundation of influence and trust. And once you master these, you no longer have to chase respect or followers. They will naturally gravitate toward you, because you will become the type of leader everyone wants to follow. Charisma isn't about being the loudest or the most charismatic person in the room. It's about being emotionally present, believing in others, and guiding people with clarity and conviction. When you bring this type of leadership into your life, you don't just change the lives of others, you change your own. Charisma becomes a part of who you are, and the world responds to it. This is the essence of leadership. Not dominance, not force, but influence, inspired by presence, emotion, and authenticity. Once you cultivate this energy within yourself, you will be able to lead in ways that leave lasting impacts on everyone you encounter, and that is the true power of leadership charisma. Chapter 6. The Art of Conflict Resolution. Conflict is inevitable. In every conversation, every relationship, there will be moments where opposing views, emotions, or needs collide. But how you handle conflict is what separates great leaders from ordinary ones. Conflict resolution is an art, not a science. It requires more than just finding solutions. It requires emotional intelligence, patience, and the ability to see beyond the immediate discomfort. The first step in resolving conflict is to remain calm. When emotions run high, it's easy to react impulsively. We all have the tendency to defend our ideas, our beliefs, our egos, but reacting out of emotion only escalates the conflict. The ability to remain calm is the cornerstone of effective conflict resolution. Calmness allows you to think clearly, to listen carefully, and to respond thoughtfully. When you stay calm, you control the situation, instead of letting it control you. This control does not mean dominating the conversation, but rather maintaining a steady presence that others can rely on. Great leaders are known for their ability to stay grounded in difficult situations. They don't panic, they don't escalate, they don't retreat. They face conflict with a sense of stability, knowing that every conflict is an opportunity to learn, grow, and connect. The second step is to listen actively. Conflict often arises when people feel unheard. When their ideas, emotions, or needs are ignored, they become defensive. Active listening requires more than just hearing words. It requires full attention, empathy, and understanding. It's about listening to understand, not just to respond. When you listen actively, you acknowledge the other person's perspective. You validate their feelings, even if you don't agree with their point of view. This act of listening creates a space for the other person to feel seen and heard. And when someone feels heard, they are more likely to listen to you in return. Conflict resolution is not about winning. It's about finding a solution that respects both parties. It's about seeking understanding, not superiority. When you approach conflict with the goal of finding mutual understanding, you shift from confrontation to collaboration. You move from opposition to cooperation. But understanding doesn't happen through agreement alone. It happens through dialogue, through sharing perspectives, through questioning assumptions, and through finding common ground. The third step is to find common ground. In every conflict, there are always points of agreement. These points may be small at first, but they provide a foundation for resolving the larger issue. By focusing on shared values, goals, or concerns, you create a sense of unity within the conflict. This unity makes it easier to explore solutions that benefit everyone involved. Leaders who master conflict resolution don't focus solely on the problem. They focus on the solution, and they encourage others to do the same. They shift the conversation from "what's wrong" to "how can we fix it?" The fourth step is to communicate effectively. In conflict, communication is everything. What you say, how you say it, and when you say it all matter. The goal is not just to speak your mind, but to speak in a way that invites cooperation and resolution. When you communicate during conflict, do so with empathy, clarity, and respect. Avoid accusations, avoid blaming, avoid raising your voice. Instead, use I statements to express how you feel. For example, instead of saying, "you never listen to me," and say, "I feel unheard when my concerns are dismissed." This subtle shift helps prevent defensiveness and opens the door to productive dialogue. Effective communication also involves body language. Your posture, tone, and facial expressions convey emotions that words alone cannot. When you're communicating in conflict, ensure your body language matches your message. Maintain eye contact. Keep an open posture, and ensure your tone is calm and non-threatening. Non-verbal cues play a significant role in how your message is received. A positive, open demeanor makes others feel comfortable. A defensive or closed demeanor makes them feel unsafe. The fifth step is to focus on solutions, not problems. People in conflict often become so focused on the issue that they lose sight of the goal, resolving the issue. Instead of dwelling on blame, criticism, or past mistakes, shift your attention to potential solutions. Ask yourself and the other person, what can we do to move forward? What can we agree on? When you focus on solutions, you shift the energy from negative to positive. You move the conversation from a deadlock to progress. The sixth step is to remain flexible. Flexibility in conflict is the ability to adapt, to consider different perspectives, and to be willing to adjust your position when new information arises. Rigid thinking only deepens the divide. Flexibility opens the door to compromise and innovation. Great leaders understand that conflict is not about being right. It's about finding a way forward together. They remain open to new ideas, new solutions, and new ways of thinking. The seventh step is to avoid personalizing the conflict. Conflict often becomes emotional because it feels personal, but when you can separate the issue from the person, you create space for resolution. When you treat the problem as the enemy, not the person, you stop defending your ego. You stop seeing the other person as an adversary, and you start seeing them as a partner in finding a solution. Personal attacks escalate conflict. Focus on the issue, not the person. The eighth step is to acknowledge and validate emotions. Conflict often stems from emotional pain. People argue not just because of differences of opinion, but because their feelings have been hurt, their needs unmet, or their values challenged. Acknowledging the emotions involved in a conflict doesn't mean agreeing with them. It means recognizing that emotions are valid, no matter how irrational they may seem. When you acknowledge emotions, you allow the other person to feel heard, which reduces defensiveness. This makes it easier to resolve the issue at hand. The ninth step is to take responsibility for your part. Every conflict involves two people, and both parties play a role. Even if you believe the other person is mostly at fault, taking responsibility for your own actions, even if it's just in your communication style, creates an opening for healing. When you take responsibility, you model accountability. You show that this encourages the other person to do the same, which accelerates resolution. The 10th step is to know when to walk away. Not every conflict can be resolved in one sitting. Sometimes the best option is to give both sides time and space to cool down. A brief break gives both parties time to process, reflect, and recalibrate. It prevents further escalation and allows emotions to settle. Walking away does not mean giving up. It means choosing to return to the conversation when you can approach it with calmness, clarity, and emotional balance. The ultimate goal of conflict resolution is connection. It's not about winning or losing. It's about understanding, finding common ground, and moving forward with mutual respect. When you resolve conflict with grace, you build stronger relationships, deeper trust, and a sense of shared purpose. Conflict is not something to fear. It is something to embrace. It is an opportunity to grow, to understand, and to strengthen connections. Social masters know this. They approach conflict with confidence, patience, and emotional intelligence. They resolve conflicts without drama, without bitterness, and without compromise on their values. And when you learn to master the art of conflict resolution, you stop seeing conflict as a barrier. You start seeing it as an opportunity for understanding, growth, and stronger relationships. Chapter 7. Influencing through emotional intelligence. Emotional intelligence, EI, is the secret weapon of social mastery. It's not enough to be smart or talented. You must also be emotionally attuned to the world around you, because at the core of every decision, every interaction, and every relationship lies emotion. Emotional intelligence allows you to understand not only your own emotions, but the emotions of others as well. It gives you the ability to regulate your feelings, to connect with others on a deeper level, and to influence those around you with grace, confidence, and subtlety. The first pillar of emotional intelligence is self-awareness. Before you can influence others, you must first understand yourself. What triggers you? What makes you react emotionally? What drives your behavior? Self-awareness gives you clarity. It allows you to recognize how your emotions affect your actions and how your actions affect others. Leaders with high emotional intelligence are fully aware of their own emotional states. They don't let their emotions rule them. Instead, they observe them, understand them, and respond thoughtfully rather than reacting impulsively. This awareness allows them to control their behavior, especially when emotions run high. They don't snap in moments of frustration. They don't allow stress to dictate their actions. They remain calm and composed, even in challenging situations. And because they are emotionally self-aware, others around them begin to trust them. They feel safe in their presence, knowing that the leader can remain grounded, no matter what emotions are at play. The second pillar is self-regulation. Once you're aware of your emotions, the next step is to manage them effectively. Emotional self-regulation is the ability to control your reactions, to think before you act, and to stay calm in difficult situations. In the heat of the moment, it's easy to act impulsively, to speak harshly, to get defensive, to let anger take control. But leaders with emotional intelligence don't fall into this trap. They regulate their emotions by choosing their responses wisely. They know when to speak, when to listen, when to act, and when to pause. Self-regulation also means remaining adaptable. A socially intelligent person doesn't react based on habit. They adjust to the emotional climate of the moment. If someone is upset, they soften their tone. If the room is tense, they bring calm. If there's too much silence, they inject energy. Self-regulation is about staying in control, no matter what the situation presents. And this self-control inspires respect from others. They look to you for stability, for guidance, for calm. The third pillar of emotional intelligence is motivation. People with high emotional intelligence are self-motivated. They don't need constant external validation to feel good about their work. They find motivation internally. Leaders with emotional intelligence are driven by their vision, by their purpose, by the desire to make a difference. This internal drive fuels their actions and gives them the energy to push through challenges. But motivation is also about inspiring others. Emotional intelligence allows you to connect with people's emotions, and this emotional connection sparks motivation. People who feel emotionally supported and understood are more motivated to act, to give their best effort, and to follow through. A motivated team is an inspired team. When a leader has emotional intelligence, they make their team feel like their work matters, like their contribution is valued. This connection to purpose is what makes leaders charismatic. They are not just focused on their own goals, they are focused on the goals of the group, and they know how to tap into the collective energy of the team to achieve them. The fourth pillar is empathy. Empathy is the ability to understand and share the feelings of others. It goes beyond sympathy. Sympathy is feeling for someone. Empathy is feeling with them. When you are empathetic, you can sense the emotional state of others. You can feel their joy, their frustration, their uncertainty. And because you understand what they're going through, you can respond in a way that resonates with them emotionally. Empathy strengthens relationships. It creates trust. It fosters a sense of community. It helps you influence by making others feel understood. Empathy is not about fixing someone's problems. It's about being present with them in their emotional experience. It's about listening, validating their feelings, and offering support without judgment. Leaders with empathy don't just manage people, they care for people. They see the humanity in others, and they build deep, trusting relationships as a result. Empathy also allows leaders to manage conflict more effectively. When you understand the emotions driving a disagreement, you can navigate the situation with calmness and clarity. You can help others see each other's perspectives, create understanding, and find common ground. The fifth pillar of emotional intelligence is social skills. This is the ability to manage relationships and build networks. It's about interacting with others in a way that builds rapport, fosters collaboration, and creates positive social environments. Leaders with social skills know how to motivate a team, how to resolve conflict, how to inspire action, and how to build meaningful relationships. They communicate clearly and persuasively. They listen actively and respond thoughtfully. They know how to use their social influence to inspire, guide, and support. Socially skilled leaders can read the room and adapt their approach accordingly. They understand the dynamics of group behavior and know how to manage them. They lead by example, modeling the behaviors they want to see in others. When a leader has strong social skills, they create an environment of trust, respect, and collaboration. People want to work with them, follow them, and support them. They inspire others to take action, to engage with the vision, and to contribute to the collective effort. Emotional intelligence is the backbone of influence. It allows you to lead without force, to persuade without manipulation, and to inspire without coercion. When you understand yourself and others on an emotional level, you become a magnetic leader. People trust you because they feel understood by you. They follow you because they feel safe with you. They give their best effort because they believe in your vision and in your ability to guide them. In this chapter, we've explored how emotional intelligence is the secret to influence. It's the difference between being a boss and being a leader. It's the key to creating authentic relationships, building trust, and leading with emotional clarity. As you continue on your journey, remember that emotional intelligence isn't just a skill to be learned, it's a way of being. It's about showing up fully, with awareness, empathy, and understanding. It's about connecting with others on a deep human level. When you do this, you become a leader others want to follow. You become someone who inspires, who connects, and who influences without effort. And that is the true power of emotional intelligence in leadership. Chapter 8. Mastering the Art of Influence. Influence is not about power. It's not about dominance. It's not about controlling others. True influence is the art of guiding others, subtly, gently, and effectively. It's the ability to shape outcomes, to inspire action, and to move people toward a shared vision without force. The key to influence lies in understanding one simple truth. People don't follow what you say. They follow what you make them feel. The art of influence is rooted in emotional resonance, in connecting deeply with people, and in creating trust. Once trust is established, influence becomes natural. Influence is built on emotional intelligence. You influence not by manipulating others, but by aligning with their emotions, their desires, and their values. To master influence, you must first understand the emotional landscape of those around you. What do they care about? What are their fears? What motivates them? By tuning into these emotional drivers, you can craft messages that speak directly to their hearts. You can offer solutions that resonate deeply. You can present ideas that excite and inspire. Influence also requires self-awareness. You cannot influence others effectively if you don't understand yourself, your emotions, your strengths, your weaknesses. Self-awareness allows you to manage your reactions, to stay calm in the face of resistance, and to project confidence without arrogance. It helps you stay grounded, even in emotionally charged situations, so you can guide others with clarity and purpose. Mastering the art of influence also requires active listening. Influence doesn't come from talking the most, it comes from listening the most. The best influencers know how to listen with intention. They listen not just to respond, but to understand, to empathize, and to connect. When you listen actively, you make the other person feel heard and valued. This builds trust. It creates a sense of safety. It invites collaboration. And from that place of trust and understanding, you can influence without resistance. Another important aspect of influence is the ability to frame your message effectively. Influencers don't simply present facts. They frame them in a way that aligns with the values and emotions of the audience. It's not about what you say, it's about how you say it. The right framing makes your message compelling, persuasive, and irresistible. People are more likely to be influenced when they see a personal benefit, when they can connect the idea to their own desires, needs, and goals. When your message speaks directly to their personal vision, they're more likely to take action. Great influencers also understand the importance of timing. Timing is everything. It's about knowing when to speak, when to listen, and when to remain silent. Influence grows when you know the right moment to make your move. Too early, and you risk being ignored. Too late, and the opportunity is lost. Social masters understand that timing is everything. They read the room, they sense the mood, and they deliver their message when the time is right. But influence isn't just about speaking at the right moment. It's also about using your body language and presence to reinforce your message. Your body speaks louder than your words. A confident posture, a steady gaze, a calm breath. These non-verbal cues communicate authority, trustworthiness, and reliability. When your energy matches your words, your influence grows exponentially. People trust what they feel, and when your presence aligns with your message, they feel your sincerity. Mastering influence is also about building relationships. The best influencers don't rely on power or force. They rely on their ability to build strong, authentic connections. They take the time to understand the people they are trying to influence. They engage in meaningful conversations. They listen to people's concerns. They acknowledge their needs. And through these connections, they build influence that lasts. Influence isn't about manipulating others to get what you want. It's about helping others see what's possible and empowering them to take action. A great influencer knows how to inspire confidence in others. They help people believe in their own abilities, in their own potential. They guide them to see opportunities they hadn't considered and help them overcome obstacles that seem insurmountable. Influence also requires consistency. People follow those who are consistent in their behavior, their actions, and their words. When you are consistent in your approach, you build trust. You build credibility. And with credibility comes influence. But consistency doesn't mean rigidity. Great influencers know when to adapt, when to adjust their approach, and when to embrace change. They are flexible enough to respond to new challenges, but steady enough to remain reliable. The key to influence is this delicate balance, the ability to stay true to your values, your vision, and your purpose, while adapting to the needs of the people around you. Influence is also about showing up with authenticity. People are drawn to those who are real, who don't hide behind masks, who speak from the heart. Authenticity builds rapport, and rapport builds influence. When you are authentic, people connect with you on a deeper level. They trust you more, they listen more, and they follow you more. The best influencers don't try to be someone they're not. They embrace who they are, and they bring their true selves to every interaction. This authenticity creates emotional resonance, it creates connection, and it creates the foundation for long-term influence. Influence also requires a deep sense of purpose. When you have a clear vision and a strong sense of direction, others are drawn to follow. People want to be led by someone who knows where they are going. Great influencers have a sense of purpose that's larger than themselves. They inspire others by sharing their vision, by making people feel that they are part of something bigger. When people see the bigger picture, they are more willing to commit, to contribute, to follow. The final step to mastering influence is empowering others. The most influential leaders are those who lift others up. They help people recognize their own potential. They encourage growth, and they offer opportunities for others to shine. True influence isn't about gaining followers. It's about creating other leaders. When you empower others, you create a ripple effect of influence. The greatest influencers don't just lead, they create more leaders. They inspire others to take ownership of their own influence and impact. Mastering the art of influence is a lifelong journey. It requires practice, patience, and emotional intelligence. It requires listening more than speaking, understanding more than judging, and guiding more than pushing. Once you master influence, you don't need to convince others to follow you. They follow you because they believe in your vision, they believe in your values, and they believe in themselves. This is the power of influence. It is the quiet strength that moves people toward action, toward change, and toward growth. And when you master this art, you will lead not by force, but by inspiration. Chapter 9. The Power of Persuasion and Influence in Communication. Persuasion is the cornerstone of communication. It's the art of guiding others, of influencing decisions, and of shaping the way people think, feel, and act. At its core, persuasion is about understanding people, understanding their motivations, desires, fears, and aspirations. It's not about manipulation. It's about aligning your message with the emotional currents of others, so that your ideas are not only heard, but felt deeply. Every great communicator knows the power of persuasion. They understand that communication isn't just about words. It's about emotion. It's about connection. It's about speaking to the heart, not just the mind. When you communicate with persuasive power, you don't just get people to agree with you. You get them to believe in what you believe. You get them to see the world from your perspective and to feel moved to act on that vision. To truly master persuasion, you must first master the psychology of human behavior. Why do people say yes? What makes them trust you? What makes them listen? What makes them take action? The key to persuasive communication is emotional resonance. People make decisions based on emotion, then justify those decisions with logic. This is why persuasion is so powerful. It connects with the emotional core of a person, long before the logical mind can process it. Great communicators know that emotions drive action. They use their words, tone, body language, and energy to tap into those emotions. They create a space where the other person feels seen, heard, and understood. And in that space, influence flows naturally. The first principle of persuasion is to connect. If you cannot establish rapport with someone, you cannot influence them. Rapport is the foundation of trust. Without trust, there is no influence. When people feel connected to you, they listen more attentively. They open their hearts and minds to your ideas. They are more likely to believe in what you're saying and to take action. This connection begins with authenticity. People can sense when you are being real with them, and when you are pretending. Authenticity breeds trust. When you communicate with honesty and integrity, people can't help but trust you. And once they trust you, persuasion becomes natural. But persuasion is not only about building trust. It's also about understanding what people need and want. What are their desires? What are their fears? What do they value? Once you understand these emotional drivers, you can frame your message in a way that speaks directly to those needs. You can show them how your ideas, your vision, align with their own personal goals. Persuasion is about aligning your message with the desires of others. It's about showing them how their world can be better with your ideas. When you do this, they don't just agree with you, they become your advocates. The second principle of persuasion is clarity. Great communicators don't muddle their message with unnecessary complexity. They speak simply, directly, and with purpose. When your message is clear, people can absorb it easily. When your message is unclear, people become confused, distracted, and disengaged. Clarity gives power to your message. It makes your ideas stand out. It makes people understand exactly what you want them to do and why they should do it. Great communicators also understand the role of timing in persuasion. Timing can make or break a persuasive message. If you speak too soon, you risk overwhelming the listener. If you speak too late, you risk missing the opportunity. The key to perfect timing is awareness. You must read the room, understand the emotional temperature of the conversation, and speak when the listener is most receptive. Timing also involves patience. Sometimes, persuasion takes time. It's not about pushing your ideas forcefully, but about planting seeds and letting them grow. The third principle of persuasion is the power of storytelling. People don't remember facts and figures. They remember stories. A well-told story taps into the emotions of the listener. It creates images in their mind, makes them feel something, and moves them to act. Great communicators know how to tell stories that inspire. They weave narratives that connect with the listener's experience, that bring their ideas to life, and that inspire action. A story isn't just a narrative. It's a vessel for your message. It carries your ideas through emotional engagement, so that people don't just hear your message, they feel it. The fourth principle of persuasion is social proof. Humans are social creatures. We look to others to guide our decisions. When we see others making a choice, we feel more comfortable making the same choice. This is why social proof is such a powerful persuasive tool. When you show that others have already made the decision you're advocating, you increase your chances of success. People follow what others do because they want to be part of the group. They want to fit in. They want to feel like they're making the right choice. Social proof can take many forms: testimonials, success stories, the approval of peers. When people see others benefiting from your ideas, they're more likely to follow suit. The fifth principle of persuasion is reciprocity. When you give something, people feel obligated to give something in return. Reciprocity is the emotional currency of human interaction. When you help others, when you support them, when you add value to their lives, they naturally feel the need to reciprocate. This is why great persuaders give first. They don't wait for others to offer something before they act. They offer value, guidance, or support, knowing that the law of reciprocity will ensure they receive in return. But reciprocity isn't just about giving in exchange for something. It's about creating a sense of goodwill, building trust, and forming a relationship based on mutual respect. The sixth principle of persuasion is consistency. People value consistency. They want to know that what you say aligns with what you do. They want to know that you are reliable, that your actions match your words. When you are consistent in your message, your actions, and your behavior, you build trust and credibility. And once you build credibility, you become more persuasive. The most persuasive people are those who are reliable, who are predictable, and who follow through on their promises. The seventh principle of persuasion is emotional appeal. Humans are emotional beings. We make decisions based on how we feel, not just on logic. Great persuaders know how to connect with people on an emotional level. They don't just present facts. They tap into the emotions that drive people's decisions. They speak to the heart, not just the head. People are more likely to act when they feel an emotional connection to your message. When your message resonates with their emotions, they are moved to take action. Emotional appeal doesn't manipulate, it resonates. It doesn't force, it inspires. Finally, the most persuasive people understand the power of presence. When you speak, you must own the room. Your body language, your voice, your energy must all align with your message. Presence amplifies your words. It gives weight to your ideas. It makes others listen, and it makes your message unforgettable. When you speak with conviction and confidence, people feel your sincerity. They feel your belief, and they are drawn to follow your lead. The art of persuasion is not about convincing others to do what you want. It's about guiding them to a place where they can make a decision that aligns with their own needs and values. It's about listening, understanding, and finding common ground. Persuasion is not a skill reserved for the few. It's a skill that can be learned and perfected by anyone. It's about communicating with emotional intelligence, clarity, and authenticity. When you master the art of persuasion, you don't just change people's minds, you change their hearts. Chapter 10. Mastering Leadership Influence. Leadership is not about telling people what to do. It's about inspiring them to do it on their own. True leadership influence is the ability to guide, to empower, and to motivate others toward a shared vision without force. It's the quiet strength that shapes decisions, drives action, and inspires lasting change. Influence is the cornerstone of leadership. Without influence, leadership becomes nothing more than authority. With influence, leadership becomes a force of nature, subtle yet powerful, gentle yet unstoppable. Mastering leadership influence begins with the understanding that leadership is not about self-promotion. It's about promoting others. True leaders don't seek attention. They create opportunities for others to shine. They serve, empower, and uplift their teams, ensuring that everyone rises together. The most influential leaders understand the power of emotional connection. People follow leaders who make them feel seen, heard, and valued. When you connect with others on an emotional level, you don't just earn their trust, you earn their loyalty. Great leaders understand that the heart of influence lies in trust. Without trust, nothing lasts. Without trust, teams falter, relationships break, and goals remain out of reach. To build trust, leaders must first build credibility through consistent actions, transparent communication, and an unwavering commitment to their values. Credibility is not earned by what you say, but by what you do. Leaders who speak one thing but act another lose influence the moment their actions contradict their words. Trust is built over time by being reliable, consistent, and true to your word. Clarity is another vital component of leadership influence. When leaders are clear about their vision, their mission, and their goals, they provide direction for others to follow. People are drawn to leaders who know where they are going and can clearly articulate the path forward. Clarity removes doubt, eliminates confusion, and inspires confidence. A leader with a clear vision speaks with purpose. They create a roadmap that others can follow, and they lead the way with unwavering confidence. When people know the why behind the leader's decisions, they are more likely to follow the how without hesitation. But influence goes beyond vision. It's about empowering others to contribute to that vision. A leader who inspires others to take ownership of their work, their ideas, and their outcomes is a leader who fosters collaboration and innovation. Great leaders don't just delegate tasks, they delegate ownership. When a leader gives their team the responsibility to make decisions, it shows trust. It shows belief in their abilities. It empowers them to think critically, to solve problems creatively, and to rise to the occasion. This empowerment creates a culture of accountability, where each person takes responsibility for their actions and their contributions. When people feel accountable, they don't just follow orders, they act with initiative, passion, and commitment. A leader's ability to listen is also essential to mastering influence. True influence is not about speaking the most, it's about listening the most. Leaders who listen well create an environment where people feel valued, where their opinions matter, and where their voices are heard. Listening is the foundation of empathy. Empathy allows leaders to understand the emotions and perspectives of others, which builds strong relationships and fosters mutual respect. Leaders who are empathetic don't just hear their people, they feel their struggles, their hopes, and their dreams. Empathy gives leaders the ability to respond to others' needs with compassion and understanding, creating an emotional bond that strengthens influence. The next step in mastering leadership influence is understanding the power of authenticity. Authenticity is the magnet that draws people in. Leaders who are authentic show up as their true selves. They don't wear masks. They don't pretend to be something they are not. Their vulnerability and transparency make them relatable and trustworthy. Authentic leaders lead from a place of integrity. They make decisions based on their core values, and they act consistently with those values, regardless of the circumstances. Authenticity inspires loyalty because it creates an environment of openness and honesty. When people know that their leader is real, they feel comfortable being real themselves. Influence is about the emotional energy you bring into the room. A leader's energy is contagious. When a leader exudes positivity, confidence, and passion, they inspire those around them to feel the same. Conversely, when a leader exudes negativity, doubt, or fear, they spread that energy to the people they lead. Mastering influence means learning how to regulate your energy and project the right energy for the moment. When you lead with calm energy in a crisis, you reassure your team and give them confidence. When you lead with enthusiasm and passion, you ignite the same energy in others, inspiring them to take action. Leaders must also have emotional resilience. The road to leadership is never smooth. There will be obstacles, setbacks, and challenges along the way. Leaders who master influence know how to handle adversity with grace, to bounce back from failure, and to maintain their emotional balance even when things go wrong. This resilience shows others that they too can weather storms. It gives them confidence in their ability to face challenges head-on, and it creates a culture of perseverance within the team. The most influential leaders are also visionaries. They don't just focus on the day-to-day grind. They have a long-term vision that inspires others to look beyond their current circumstances. A clear vision gives people direction. It gives them purpose. It gives them something to strive for. Influential leaders communicate their vision in a way that others can see it, feel it, and want to be a part of it. They paint a picture of a brighter future, and they inspire their team to work together to make that future a reality. Effective leaders also practice adaptability. They understand that things don't always go according to plan. When obstacles arise, they don't get stuck or frustrated. Instead, they adapt their strategies and solutions, remaining flexible in their approach. Adaptability allows a leader to influence through change, to guide their team through uncertain times, and to pivot when new information arises. A leader who can adapt is a leader who can keep moving forward, no matter the challenges. One of the most important aspects of leadership influence is inspiring trust. Trust is the glue that holds any relationship together, and it's especially vital in leadership. People don't follow leaders they don't trust. They don't commit to a vision they don't believe in. To inspire trust, leaders must be consistent in their words and actions. They must lead with integrity and honesty. They must show their team that they have their best interests at heart, and that they will always act in alignment with their values. Once trust is established, influence becomes natural. People will follow you because they believe in your ability to lead, because they trust you, because they know you will always act in their best interest. In conclusion, mastering leadership influence is about aligning your vision, your emotions, and your energy with the people you lead. It's about understanding that influence isn't about control, it's about connection. It's about leading with empathy, authenticity, and resilience. And most importantly, it's about empowering others to be the best version of themselves. When you master these qualities, you won't just be a leader. You'll be a beacon of influence, guiding others towards success, growth, and achievement. This is the true power of leadership, the ability to inspire, influence, and make a lasting impact.